It was like a genetic trigger in my mind. Literally, when I saw them, something happened. And I think it happens to a lot of people when you see them. And I can explain to you why that happens to a lot of people. Because the stone circles are a consequence of cymatics, the shape of sound coming out of the ground, right? I discovered that some years later. And I started to realize that we're looking at cymatic patterns, that the shapes of the stone circles are created by the sound coming out of the ground. And that, because it's a frequency of the earth, we're connected to it through our DNA. So when you look at it, it triggers something, whether you know it or not, something deep subconsciously. And it certainly triggered me. And it made me realize that we're dealing with something deeply significant, connected to the origins of humankind, very, very ancient civilizations. And literally within a year, I moved from Johannesburg to a little sleepy town called Watervalboven in the province of Mpumalanga, which is about an hour and a half from the Kruger Park. And I started to work on these stone circles, the ruins, to research them and so forth. And within 6 months of being in Watervalboven, I must have walked through probably 1,000 ruins myself, just with probably a 50-kilometer radius around me, the mountains in all directions. So I thought, hold on, if I can see 1,000 ruins in 6 months, there must be a lot more than 20,000 of these. So I called up the retired head of archaeology at Wits University, my old university in Johannesburg. I graduated there from the medical school with a degree in pharmaceutics. And I called him up, got him on the phone, and said, Revel, how many of these stone circles do you think we have? And without blinking, he said, at least 100,000. I was so excited because that's what I thought at that stage. If I can see 1,000 in 6 months, there must be at least 100,000. And he said 100,000. I went, whoa, yay. And then I said to him, Revel, but you realize that this poses a big problem in the population numbers. Because at that time, I still believed, like everybody else, that the stone circles were built as dwellings for people or cows. So I said, well, if there are 100,000 dwellings for people, and we allocate 10 people per dwelling, we have a population of 1 million people. And at no time in history, 100 years or earlier, was there a population even close to that. And some of these circles are supposed to go back 300 years. At which point, there must have been like 200,000 people living in that part of the world. And so there was silence on the phone for a little while. And he said, well, then there can't be 100,000 stone circles. Just like that. So from saying there's 100,000 to, the history books tell us nobody lived here, that it was a sparsely populated part of the world, so the stone circles aren't real. We can see them, but they aren't real. And I realized that, oh my God, I can't deal with academics. Their brains don't work like normal people's brains work. They don't reach obvious logical conclusions like any normal human being would reach. And that's when I separated myself from any kind of work with academia.